Like to welcome you back to the reconvened full council meeting from yesterday evening. Hope you all got rested and recharged for another 5-hour meeting. Definitely not. I'm going to pass over to Karen to take members' attendance and apologies.
Thank you, Chair. To all members of Derry City and Strabane District Council, you're hereby summoned to the reconvened meeting of the Council Thursday, the 26th of February at 2 p.m. and I'll take the attendance. Alderman Chelsea Cook.
Online.
Thank you. We've apologies from Alderman Guy. Alderman Derry Cossey.
Online.
Thank you. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
And late, Karen.
Okay, no problem. Alderman Nairi McMorris.
Online, Karen.
Thank you. Alderman Julie Middleton is online.
Online, Karen.
Thank you. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
Online, Karen.
Thank you. Alderman Gary Wilkinson.
Apologies, Karen.
No problem. Councillor Jason Barr. Councillor Lillian Barr.
Apologies.
Apologies, okay. Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Paul Boggs. Okay. Councillor John Boyle. Councillor Amanda Clark. Okay. Councillor Shauna Cusack. Councillor Caroline Devine. Councillor Gary Donnelly.
Anshaw.
Okay. Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Sandra Duffy.
Anshaw.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rory Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Sean Fleming.
Anshaw.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
Anshaw.
Okay. Councillor Sean Harkin. Councillor Brian Hart.
Anshaw. Here, Lena.
Okay. Councillor Conor Heaney.
Sure.
Councillor Aisling Hutton.
Anshaw.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Sure.
Councillor Fergal Leonard. Apologies, okay. Councillor Patricia Logue.
Anshaw, Karen.
No problem, thank you. Councillor Catherine McDade.
Apologies.
Apologies, okay. Councillor Emma McGinley. Councillor Elizabeth McGowan.
Anshaw.
Okay. Councillor Rory McHugh. Councillor Sean Mooney. Councillor Pat Murphy. Councillor Declan Norris. Councillor Antano Fergal. Apologies. Councillor Martin Riley.
Online, Karen.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brian Tierney.
Here.
And Councillor Grace Nealis. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Karen. And for those of you who are just tuning in, I just need to explain that the mayor had to leave the meeting and asked myself to be a substitute. So don't, for those online, don't adjust your sets. So moving on to the broadcasting statement, I'd like to remind everyone physically present at the meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at the meeting, you're consenting to be informed and to the use and storage of these images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded they only have their cameras and mics on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the council privacy notice may be found on the council website. Members, moving on to declarations of interest. None in the chamber and none online. And I see Councillor Boggs and Councillor Nealis online. Moving on to chairperson's business, and unsurprisingly, I don't have any chairperson's business because up until 5 minutes ago, I didn't know that I was going to be sitting here, and the mayor hasn't informed me of any. So moving straight into Item 6, notices of motion. The first notice of motion is from Councillor Enelis, who is online for today's meeting. I'm going to pass the, Grace, are you content to table your motion online?
Yeah, that's grand. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a seconder? Councillor McGinley. Lana, right, Grace?
Where may I get? Okay, I've brought this motion into council today with the purpose of strengthening and ensuring the continuity of community wealth building within the Derry City and Strabane District Council. Within community wealth building, the goal is to create an economy where wealth is broadly owned by the community and locally rooted within the community so that financial resources recirculate back into and for the benefit of that community. We are enthused by the work carried out by council so far, by the establishment of the Social Value Working Group and the inclusion of social value as an agenda piece in our latest special capital meeting and a now constant agenda piece in every capital working group going forward. I would like to again commend our council officers, Linda and Teresa, on their work, engaging with the LGPs on community wealth building and helping to educate community organisations on procurement and in the importance of being listed as a broker on the Social Value website. It is clear that the council is thinking strategically about community wealth building as an economic driver and a placemaker as we enter this key phase of the City Deal. We welcome the ongoing commitment from both the Department for Economy and Department for Communities in supporting community wealth building and look towards Scotland, who have just passed legislation on community wealth building in the past week. The creation of an internal working group means that Council will speak with one voice in community wealth building, breaking silo working and aligning goals. It will provide accountability and continuity with outcomes being reported on. It is important in this key stage of the City Deal that core members, such as those from the procurement, finance, legal, policy and equality teams, have clear goals on community wealth building, ensuring inclusive growth. Community wealth building should be a key consideration when Council spends, employs, uses land, invests and so on. The creation of a public anchor network in line with the 5 pillars of community wealth building would bring together a group of large key stakeholders, such as the University of Ulster, the Western Health and Social Care Trust and the EA, who could work together more effectively to support their local economy. Instead of acting alone, this public anchor network, guided by the Derry City and Strabane District Council and the North West Community Wealth Building Partnership, would coordinate and provide guidance on how they spend money, hire people, invest funds, use lands and buildings. The goal is simple: keep wealth in the community and use their collective power to create local jobs, support local businesses and strengthen the local economy. So why work with the North West Community Wealth Building Partnership? It was established in 2022 and is a grassroots-led partnership with over 30 organisations involved, spanning community, public and private sector from our council area, who have come together with the same goal: to improve the lives of people, support inclusive and sustainable economic growth and create more successful places. Within community organisations, there are constant funding threats and this leads to competition among organisations, where the reality is that if we look at community wealth building and economic democracy, working collaboratively is a much more powerful tool as an economic driver for people in place. We can shape the future of our council area much more effectively if we look at the economy through this lens, so that investment and growth opportunities don't simply pass us by and that we get a piece of that pie instead. Interestingly, we have a delegation coming in March from Birmingham City to see what we are doing here in the Northwest in terms of community wealth building, procurement and collaboration on our meeting with community organisations, the Northwest Community Wealth Building Partnership and DTNI. At this point, we are now positioning the Northwest as a model of best practice for community wealth building with the Social Enterprise Annual Conference happening as we speak in St Colum's Hall. We have an opportunity for our council to lead on this in a real meaningful way in the North by creating a platform where economic democracy can thrive and transform local wealth circulation. Continuing this commitment through working with the Northwest Community Wealth Building Partnership to form an internal working group, create a public anchor network and to develop a 5-year community wealth building plan for our council area shows that we are serious about improving the lives for people within our council area, creating new ways to grow local economy and keep it there.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Councillor O'Neillis for the proposal. I'm going to speak in support on behalf of the SALP. We fully recognise the potential, promise and opportunity presented by community wealth building. We acknowledge the sterling work that has taken place thus far by Council and the North West Community Wealth Building Partnership, and we feel it's completely appropriate that there's enhanced collaboration between both organisations to develop the long-awaited 5-year action plan. So happy to support. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to pass over to the Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Alderman Cook online, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor, for letting me in, and thanks to Councillor O'Neillis for bringing this forward. On behalf of the DUP, we do support this motion. I'm pleased to speak about the North West Community Wealth Building Partnership, who do help build a stronger, fair and more resilient local economy here in our region. We think committing to working in partnership is a positive step. You know, to be able to work collectively to develop and deliver the 5-year development plan. So I just look forward to seeing this unfold. So thanks for letting me in.
Thank you, Alderman Cook. Anybody else want to address motion?
Chair online.
Go ahead, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome back into the chair. Grace, thank you very much for a very informative presentation on your motion. I find it informative because I know nothing about the Northwest Community Wealth Building Partnership. And sometimes us in this part of the council feel omitted from the definition of Northwest. So given that, in your summing up, can you just outline who the partners are and what is the common bond area of the partnership as such? But as I say, absolutely no problem in supporting the motion, but I would just like on a personal level to know more about the Northwest Community Wealth Building Partnership. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Mr. O'Neillis, are you happy enough to respond there? Or sorry, you can do it in your sum up. We'll go to Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. Thank you, Councillor O'Neillis, for the motion and for the presentation or the introduction to it. And look, People Before Profit support all efforts to reduce inequality, reduce deprivation, and to increase equality. And I know that that is what is at the heart of this proposal in terms of the community wealth building model. So we don't have a problem supporting this motion today, and we know that there's a lot of work going on in that regard, and we look forward to seeing the outcome when we're able to measure what it's able to do. In saying that, I think if we're going to talk about economic democracy, I don't think we're going to have economic democracy when we have an economy that is controlled by big banks, billionaires, companies that are interested in profiteering from people's health, and all the other ways in which our economy is completely dominated by elites and by corporations, and increasingly so because more and more of the North's economy has been completely privatised over the last 3 decades of the peace process. And so we're not going to have economic democracy while that exists. And I think that we can take action at a community level, at a council level, but until we're actually challenging those structures, there will not be economic democracy. It's not the case in any election when you're electing political parties that the control of the means of production is ever up for a vote. So on the morning after an election, even if there's new parties in charge, the banks are still controlled by the rich. The billionaires are still sitting on their massive profits, and they're still gouging working class communities. So while we welcome the efforts that are going into community wealth building, we have to be honest. If we want a transformational economy, it has to move away from capitalism, and that means challenging the control of a tiny elite over our economy. That is the only way we're going to have economic democracy, where the vast majority of people here in the north have a say over what actually happens to the economy and are able to determine what the economy does, and where the economy is set up for the benefit of all and not a tiny elite. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. No other indicated speakers. It has been proposed and seconded. Councillor. Yeah, I'll just ask Councillor Neelis to sum up.
So just to address a couple of the questions there, Alderman Hussey, you were asking about membership. You can look at the membership online, but if you want me to go through a few of them, I can. And if you're interested in knowing the kind of the geography that the Northwest Community Wealth Building Partnership covers, I mean, like there's city centre community organisations, the Waterside Neighbourhood Partnership's a member, Development Healthy Communities, St Columns Hall, the University of Ulster, Breedian District, Ulster Scots Development Association, Newgate, Derg Valley Care, the Glen Development Initiative, Rapid. I mean, the list goes on there, but you can look up the members yourself online. There has been a concerted effort over the years to try and get as wide a geographical spread as possible, and to also make sure that all different areas of the community are covered as well. But you're more than welcome to go on there and have a look. In terms of Councillor Harkin's, not really a question, but his statement regarding the big banks, the Northwest Community Wealth Building Partnership have been working very closely with the credit unions, and the credit unions have, they've really been taking the discussion on board, and they have actually offered out loans now to social enterprises, which is a first, and they are now also offering out mortgages. So that has been facilitated by those discussions with the Northwest Community Wealth Building Partnership to ensure that, when the social enterprises are looking to expand or looking to a wee bit of seed funding, that they can go to their local credit unions now instead of going to the big banks. So that is something that is very much at heart with what the community wealth building is all about. I don't really, I did say a lot in my my speaking notes, so I don't really want to go over it all again, but I just want to thank you all for your support. And it is a really exciting time for our city, and the idea that we can harness some of this finance coming in different ways and look at the economy in a completely different way, like others are doing. There's a really good model in Preston, there's a model in America, and what Scotland are doing at the minute, and the fact that we are now being seen as a learning area ourselves, where people are coming to us to see what we're doing. It's all very positive, and long may it continue. And we're really, really excited about the future of community wealth building.
Thank you, Councillor Neelis. Councillor Harkin, you were happy to support that motion? Yeah. Members, I'm sensing that we're all unanimous in our support of the motion. So we'll move on. That motion has passed then, and we'll move on to our next motion, which is in the name of Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm bringing this motion here today.
Just need a wee seconder first. Councillor Jackson.
And I'll take it as read as well. That long motion of mine. So today I bring this motion on the back of some research that has recently been published. I was actually at the launch of the research results in relation to young people's behaviours and attitudes around vaping, and that was carried out by the Public Health Agency and the Health Intelligence. And when I was at the event, the survey results were pretty stark, and I suppose they concerned me, and I think that they're very concerning across society. So this is not a marginal issue. It's not an anecdotal, and it's not evidence, and it is evidence-based, and it is happening here in the north of Ireland and our communities and within our council area. We know that 98% of young people have seen or heard of vapes. 15% are current users, and the usage increases dramatically with age, from 4% in year 8 to 46% in year 14. So nearly half of older pupils are vaping. That is not experimentation. That is normalisation. The most worrying of all is that 76% of young people who vape had never smoked tobacco before they tried a vape. And of those young people, 1/3 have since gone on to experiment with cigarettes. So the narrative that vaping is purely a cessation tool is not reflected in youth data. For many young people, vaping is not a way out of nicotine, it's actually their way in. Around 40% of young vapers report negative side effects like breathlessness, headaches, anxiety, and an increase in their heart rate. These are children experiencing the early signs of nicotine dependency, and we can't ignore that. 9% of them have smoked cigarettes, and 5% of them are current smokers. Alarmingly, 14% of those who have smoked tried their first cigarette at the age of 10 or younger. The research also tells us that 51% of young people have an immediate family member who has smoked. Nicotine use is often normalised at home. Behaviour is learned, and if vaping is visible, accessible and treated as harmless, that message also transfers. That means that this is not just a school issue, it's not just an enforcement issue, it's a societal issue. That is why the Tobacco and Vapes Bill is so important. It strengthens regulation, it tackles youth marketing, it addresses accessibility, and it helps prevent a new generation becoming addicted to nicotine. As a council, we may not legislate nationally, but we absolutely have leadership. We have a leadership role locally. We can support enforcement at age of sale laws, work with schools and youth services, raise awareness with parents, partner with a public health agency, use our community planning powers to prioritise prevention. If we fail to act early, we will deal with the health consequences later. And we know that from decades of tobacco harm what those consequences look like. So this motion is not anti-business, it is not anti-adult choice, it is pro-child protection, it is pro-public health, and it is about prevention. We have an opportunity to act before this becomes another entrenched public health crisis. And I ask members across the chamber to support this motion and send a clear message that in Derry City and Strabane, protecting our young people comes first. Thank you very much.
Gormagut, Councillor Hutton, and first indicated is Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Hutton for bringing such a detailed motion. And when you look at some of the statistics which Councillor Hutton referenced as she was speaking there, I would, and the SDLP would fully agree that they are frightening. There is no one statistic there which is better than the other, but if you look, for example, at the jump in the use of vaping from year 8 to year 14, it's frightening. Mayor, I'm someone who vapes, and I started vaping to give up cigarettes a number of years ago. And I remember at the time someone telling me that I'm only replacing one bad habit with another. And I was quite shocked because it was you. I was quite shocked because I thought that moving to vaping was a good thing in terms of progression to coming off nicotine altogether. That's probably about 5 years ago and I'm still vaping and see no signs at all or any progression of getting anywhere near stopping. I wish I was, but I'm not. So I think in terms of this notice of motion and protecting young people from getting into that cycle, this is something that we should be definitely looking at. Councillor Hutton talked about the leadership role that we have here as council, and I fully agree with that. Councillor Hutton will know, in terms of her position as chair of the Health and Communities Committee, that last month I asked this council to look at the timings that we do the checks in terms of premises which sell vape and tobacco products, because I believe that there are premises not very far from this building which will be selling vape products to young people underage, knowing that this council won't be checking after business hours. And I think that's something that we really need to look at. And I'm glad that the committee of the Health and Communities Committee agreed with that proposal. When you look at the asks then in the motion in terms of the part, and this doesn't, I suppose, cut it in two, but therefore this council, absolutely we should be expressing our support for the tobacco and vapes bill. Continue to work with people who engage with young people, public health agency, local schools, youth services, everybody that we can, to make sure that we're looking, and the dangers of underage vaping is pointed out to them. And Chair, I know you've signalled the time, so rather than go through them one by one, each and every one of them we would fully support. And the SDLP are more than happy to support the proposal from Councillor Hutton. But I do think that it is really important that we maximise the opportunities that we have to reduce the sale of vaping products to young people. And we really need to be looking at the timings of where and how we carry out the checks, which is our statutory responsibility as a council. And if we do that, and businesses and vaping shops get that message that we could check at any time, I believe that the sale of vapes to young people will reduce across this district. But I thank Councillor Hutton for the motion, and we're happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. I have Alderman Middleton, Alderman Hussey online. Go ahead, Alderman Middleton.
Mayor, thank you for allowing me in. Councillor Hutton, thank you for your motion today. I'm speaking on behalf of the full DUP group when I say we are in support of the motion today. And of course, we're coming from a place of care and not judgment towards our young people. We recognise and very much share the growing concerns, the public health concerns and worries around youth vaping, the use of the addictive chemicals, the attractive packaging and the potential health risks our young people face as a result of unregulated vaping. We welcome recent legislative measures in Northern Ireland, and whilst our DUP parliamentarians have raised concerns around previous proposals, we are pleased that on the current bill there are marked improvements. We're very much committed to supporting proposals which are workable and evidence-based, and we concur with previous comments also. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton, and Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Hutton for bringing the motion. I'm someone who was a heavy smoker quite a few years ago. I tried all of the alternatives at the time. Vaping wasn't available at that time, but 10 years ago, whilst I was on 60 a day, I stopped cold turkey. Thank goodness vaping wasn't an option then, because I might still have been like Councillor Tierney, a vapor. But I remember that when the vape was introduced, as you say in your motion, Councillor Hutton, it was originally introduced as a smoking cessation aid. But what has happened is that the companies, the large companies, have taken a different track to the original intention of vapes. And they have taken a track which is, as you again point out in the statistics there, is harmful to our young folk and to anyone who progresses along the route of vaping. So I welcome all of the sections in the motion. Thank you for bringing it, and assure you of the support of the Ulster Unionist Party in that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey, and Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in, and thank you, Councillor Hutton, for this important motion, because I do think at its heart it has the concern of young people and their well-being. And I think that People Before Profit are very happy to support the proposals, and I think the impact of vaping on young people is very well documented in the motion itself. So this is something I think we should get behind and try to implement as best we can. You did mention that it's not anti-business, but I want to mention a bit about the vaping industry, because, I mean, vaping is big business, and this industry here is worth more than £1 billion a year. So there's massive, massive profits. And one of the things that's happening from this industry is that vaping is being aggressively targeted at young people using social media, making it cool. So there's something fundamentally wrong with business that does this. I mean, it's completely unethical, as I'm sure you'll agree, but this is the way capitalism works. It doesn't care about young people. It doesn't care about the impact on the health service because of the way in which it'll impact their health if they become smokers, and all the other impacts and effects that vaping has. And that then becomes a cost to us because the costs on the health service are absolutely massive in terms of people being cared for and trying to address all them illnesses and problems that arise from vaping. But that all comes back to the fact that people are making hundreds of millions of pounds every year. And we're not talking here about the corner shop that sells vapes. We're talking about the industry that is actually driving this forward, driving it forward, knowing they know already, just like the tobacco industry knew, they already know the impact of this on young people in particular, but they are continuing to aggressively market this at young people. It's absolutely sick. So this should be far better regulated. I mean, we shouldn't allow practices that actually do harm to people. And I think we need much more regulation. So I welcome the motion going through.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Members, no further indicated speakers. And again, sensing that there's unanimous support for the motion which has been proposed and seconded, so we'll mark that motion as having passed. Councillor Hutton, would you like to sum up?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thanks everybody for your support here in the chamber. And I just wanted to touch on a couple of points, and that's one that Councillor Tierney had mentioned in relation to using an electric cigarette. I think it might have been at that stage, Brian, to come off the cigarettes, and that's where the issue is lying. There were the first item that came into the market was electric e-cigs, which were being used as a deterrent from cigarettes, which we all know has harmful ingredients, and that's what causes all the many illnesses. And those e-cigarettes were brought along without any regulation. If you want to give up cigarettes and walk into a local community centre or pharmacy, you're given a prescription of nicotine replacement therapy, which is gradually reduced so that you get to the stage where you're not nicotine dependent. But that wasn't happening with the e-cigs. And what happened was the big companies that Councillor Harkin's referring to saw a gap in the market and started producing these beautiful, lovely smelling and beautiful tasting single-use vapes, which we now have got to a stage where they will be banned. So I think that at that stage, the regulation around the e-cigarette led us to the whole handling now that we have with vapes within our community. So it's important that if anybody is listening to this today or hears about it, there is a way of coming off those vapes, and that's nicotine replacement therapy, and that works as well with vapes as it does with cigarettes. And in relation to our youth, I think as well, myself and Councillor McGinley and Councillor Jackson have been liaising with the Ministry of Youth over the past few weeks through the UNICEF Child Friendly City stuff. And, they bring it up. Young people are bringing it up because they're concerned about their friends and their family. So it's important that we listen to them on the ground. And all of that research may be scary for them, or it may be stark, but we are the voice that can stand up for them and bring change locally here so that they do feel protected. And I suppose as well, we have the PHA, Cancer Focus, and all the community and voluntary sectors throughout our city and district who do focus on the smoking cessation programme. So it's important to say that the help is out there for people. And then Councillor Harkin touched on it's not anti-business. What I meant by anti-business was we're not targeting local organisations here who are selling vapes. What we want them to do is safeguard our young people, and what we need our council to do is to do that as well through checks and regulation. We know that mass production of these vapes is not going away anytime soon, but locally here we all need to come together and ensure that our young people are at the heart of all thinking when it comes to protecting their health and protecting public health as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hutton. And as I said, given the unanimous support, that motion has passed. So our final motion, folks, is from Councillor Harkin. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Can I take the motion as read?
Just need a seconder.
Chair, I'm online. The indicated I'll second the motion.
Oh, sorry, I see that. Seconded by Councillor Donnelly. Go ahead, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly, for seconding the motion. Look, I think for all of us. The health service is dear. And I think for a lot of people across our society, whatever their background is, whatever their community is, they understand the importance of the health service and why we needed to protect it and save it and fight for it. Unfortunately, as everybody knows, the health service over many years has been ravaged by cuts, and that has been very, very, very bad for the workers that work in the health service, where they see increase in pressure and below inflation pay increases on a yearly basis that doesn't reward their hard work. And we also know that there are massive waiting lists right now for many people who need access to consultation and appointments and to surgery and the assistance to help them have a better quality of life. So our health service is under massive, massive strain, and that's because it's been cut over many years. Unfortunately, there are people in our society who oppose the idea of a publicly funded health service that's free at the point of use for everybody, no matter class, income, or where they live or where they're from. And they have been ideologically opposed to the type of health service that we have that's based on the socialist ethos for a long, long time. So they've been ideologically pushing against this, seeing the cuts as an opportunity to completely undermine it. And what we have now, and this has been developing for quite a while, but I think it's reaching ahead, if you want to call it that, where we have more and more privatization of the health service, where we have companies that are stepping in to help or to fill a gap. But if you read the business presses, and I do, you can see a lot of health companies right now are targeting our health service and basically trying to identify ways to profiteer from it. And they're getting a lot of assistance from that to that project. And that is bad. So one of the things that's happened is it's clear now that it's been reported that more than £300 million was spent by trusts across the north from 2020 to 2025. This is an enormous amount of money, and trade unions have come out very, very clearly saying that this is a massive drain on the health service. This is money that should be getting invested into the health service instead of ending up in the bank accounts of the people who own private companies. And they're calling now for a halt to this privatisation. And I think that this is something that we should, as a council, absolutely get behind. I believe that there are processes happening where the privatisation of our health service is not going to be easily untangled, because it's being embedded right now into the way that the health service operates. We're already in a situation where there is more and more a two-tier health system. One, if you can afford it, or if you don't need to depend on the health service, you can go elsewhere. And the second one is where private companies are cherry-picking wealthier patients and leaving the more expensive types of operations and care to the health service, further burdening the health service. So for all these reasons, Mayor, I want to urge people to back this motion today and back the trade union campaign calling for a complete halt of the privatisation of our health service, which really comes down to saving the health service for the workers that work in it, but also the tens of thousands and millions of people here who depend on it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Donnelly, do you want to address the motion?
No, I'm content, Chair, as it is. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Harkin for bringing this motion. It is regrettable that so much money that could be spent in other parts of our NHS is going to private companies. The failure of the executive to transform our health service has meant that there is now a reliance on private companies to carry out some of the basic functions of the health service that was provided in the past. While we as a group do not support this, we recognise it's obvious that what's going on, that bringing it to a sudden halt without any planned contingency would have a negative impact on patients and on the health service overall. We would support the motion. The executive parties and health ministers should be bringing forward proposals for the long overdue transformation of our health service that funnels money away from private companies and into the NHS. While this would not happen overnight, we recognise there needs to be a clear pathway to try and reverse this process. This is yet another symptom of a health service in collapse and privatisation by stealth. The SDLP will never support this and will keep pushing for necessary transformation to secure change and a health service that provides people with the care they need without costs or lengthy waits. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Mooney. Online, Councillor Sandra Duffy.
Good morning, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Harkin. Sinn Féin shares the really serious concerns at the scale of spending on private healthcare providers and what this reflects about the pressures facing our public health services at this time. But we must also be honest about what the root causes of this crisis are. Our health service has been chronically underfunded by successive British governments at Westminster. Years of austerity and underinvestment have left our system overstretched, understaffed, and struggling to meet the needs of patients. On top of that, we are trying to operate two separate health systems on a small island of just over 6 million people. That duplication creates inefficiency, limits planning, and prevents us from delivering the full potential of healthcare for everyone who lives here. The growing reliance on the private sector is a symptom of these political failures. It's not a solution. It reflects a system that has been denied the investment and long-term planning that it absolutely needs. Sinn Féin believes the answer lies in sustained investment in our public health, growing our workforce and expanding capacity and delivering care based on need, not ability to pay. But we must also be ambitious for the future. An all-Ireland healthcare system would allow us to plan services on the basis of population need, use our resources, reduce duplication, and deliver better outcomes for patients right across this island. Healthcare workers already cooperate across invisible borders. Patients already receive treatment across jurisdictions. The future lies in building on that cooperation and delivering an all-island health service that works for everyone and ultimately delivers on unity for all our public services. Sinn Féin will continue to stand with patients, families and our healthcare workers. We will continue to challenge underfunding from Westminster, and we will continue to work towards a modern, properly funded, all-Ireland public health system, because people deserve a health service that is built on equality, fairness.
Time, Councillor.
Okay, that's me done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I have no other indicated speakers online or on the chamber members. Sorry, Derek's just put his hand up there. Go ahead, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Sorry for coming in so late. There's a lot of merit in Councillor Harkin's motion, and I'm particularly mindful right to the Health Minister demanding an end to further embedding of public-private partnerships that encourage private healthcare services. In order to do that, the department needs the finances to build up its own resources, both capital and personnel resources, to fulfill that particular role of taking out the private healthcare service provision and providing it entirely within the department. And I fully embrace that that's what should be happening, but the finances are needed, and the finances are not forthcoming. Some have referred to money coming from the Brits, from Westminster, but at the end of the day, the block grant comes to our Northern Ireland Executive, and it's the Finance Minister or the Executive who determine where that money goes to. Yes, the health service gets a considerable fraction of that particular funding that comes, but it is not getting enough. And I'm old enough to remember Michael McGimpsey as Health Minister saying that health needed more funding and being laughed at in the Assembly chamber. So whilst we in the Ulster Unionist Party are content with the content of the particular motion, it's the methodology which causes the issue. and we would at this point in time abstain from the vote on the motion, and that's where we stand on it. We appreciate the motion, agree with it, but it's the methodology of attaining that which is causing issues, and that's a political issue that lies at Stormont. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Members, with the exception of the Ulster Unionist Party, are members content to support the motion? Yeah. I'll now ask Councillor Harkin just to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks everybody for their comments on the motion. And I think I do agree with Councillor Duffy that we need an all-Ireland health service. I think on a practical level, it makes complete sense that on an island we would group together our resources and rationalise our healthcare resources in a way that would benefit the vast majority of people. And so we have to work towards that. And there's all sorts of examples already of cross-border integration or working that is beneficial to people. And we know about that here in the Northwest. And of course, the British government has underfunded the health service here in the north of Ireland, but also right across Britain. But it is the case that Stormont has decision-making power itself. And to my mind, there is no way that the private sector could have made such massive inroads without the say-so of the Stormont executive, because this is actually, the Stormont executive should be a bulwark against what Westminster is doing, rather than actually implementing what Westminster is doing in order to facilitate profiteering in our health service. And what's actually happening now is I think we're at a very dangerous point where there's all sorts of reasons being given for why we're reliant now on the private sector. But that is a process that was set up on purpose in order to get to this point. And I think what the trade union movement is saying right now, I think why they made this step is because it's got that bad. It's got so bad right now where the influence of the private sector in our health service is at a turning point. And I don't think it's good enough to say we have to wait for United Ireland. We should be putting a halt to it right now.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin, for that. Members, I will take that motion as having passed. So we move on then to the next item.
Chair, with recorded abstentions.
Yeah, I had said that previously, Alderman.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
No problem. Item 7 is our ceiling list. Anybody, anything to raise on the ceiling list? I just need a proposer and seconder for the ceiling list. Councillor Boyle, Councillor Hutton. Items 8 and 9 are open for information. So 8 is responses to motions. No member indicating. Item 9 is AOB, any other relevant business. Nobody indicating. So members, I'm going to bring the meeting to a close. So thanks for your attendance. Bye-bye.